Hi everyone, my name is Daniel. If you love unbelievable true stories, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because what I am about to share with you is the most life-changing thing that has ever happened to me. This is the story of how a freak accident took me to the edge of death, how I saw things I still struggle to explain, and how that journey led me, a man once covered in tattoos and living a life far from faith, to embrace Islam. I know, it sounds crazy, but please, listen until the end. It all started on the evening of September 12, 2023. The air in Dallas, Texas was still hot and thick with humidity, even as the sun began to dip below the horizon. I was a different person then, a ghost of myself. My life was a series of fleeting highs and inevitable lows, a constant chase for the next thrill. I was riding my prized possession, a souped-up Harley-Davidson, a beast of a machine that felt like an extension of my rebellious spirit. I was a mural of my own poor choices, with tattoos crawling down both arms and a skull inked across my neck. I thought I looked untouchable, a king of the asphalt. But I was just a boy playing a man, hiding behind leather and loud engines. That evening, the volume was cranked up, the music a loud, angry thrum in my earbuds. I'd been drinking earlier in the day, the kind of heavy, midday buzz that numbs the world and makes you feel invincible. I was riding down a stretch of Interstate 30, the wind in my face, blurring the city lights into streaks of color. I was lost in my own world, a world where the rules didn't apply to me. I don't remember the exact moment it happened. It's like my brain hit a wall and wiped the hard drive. Witnesses later told me a truck, a big semi-trailer, veered suddenly into my lane. I swerved instinctively, a hard, desperate turn. But the back wheel skidded on loose gravel, a tiny imperfection on the road that would change my entire reality. The bike went out from under me. I was airborne for a second, a terrifying, weightless moment where time seemed to slow down and I could feel the wind rush past my face one last time. My helmet, a cheap one I wore more for style than safety, flew off my head. My body slammed against the asphalt with a sickening thud, and my head hit the pavement with the force of a hammer. The last thing I remember was the screech of tires, a flash of red and blue lights in the distance, and someone screaming, "Call 911." Then, a profound silence. They told me later that I was unresponsive at the scene. My body, once so full of defiant energy, was a broken, lifeless thing on the side of the road. Paramedics worked on me, a frantic, desperate effort to restart a life they didn't know was already on the brink. They performed CPR as they sped toward Baylor University Medical Center. I was just a broken body, a patient number in a frantic system. At 6:47 p.m., in the emergency room, my heart stopped. No pulse, no breathing, the monitors flat-lined. In their world, I was gone, but here's where it gets strange. I didn't just black out, I didn't feel nothing. The moment my heart stopped, I was somewhere else entirely. It was a place beyond sound, beyond touch, beyond the chaos of the emergency room. At first, it was darkness, but not the kind of darkness that scares you. Not an empty, cold, or lonely darkness. It was a deep, warm void, a profound peace that settled over me like a blanket. I felt weightless, as though I was floating in an ocean of pure serenity. The noise, the pain, the frantic energy of the hospital, all of it was gone. It was just me, and this incredible, silent calm. Then, slowly, a light appeared in the distance. It was the purest, most brilliant light I have ever or will ever see. It was brighter than the sun, yet it didn't hurt my eyes. It was pure white, but it seemed to hold every color in the universe within it. It drew me in, and I began moving toward it without walking, as if the light itself was pulling me, welcoming me home. As I got closer to the light, I heard something, a sound, but not with my ears. It was a voice, a recitation in a rhythm I didn't recognize, but it was the most beautiful sound I've ever experienced. It wasn't a human voice, but an energy, a feeling of sound that resonated deep in my chest. The words were not in English. but I felt their meaning as if they were being poured directly into my heart. Bismillah Rahmanir Rahim. I didn't know it then, but I was hearing the opening of the Quran, Surah Al-Fatiha. The words were not just sounds, they were a feeling of profound peace and unconditional love. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I felt a peace I had never known. The stress, the anger, the regrets of my life, they all melted away. The constant noise in my head, the self-hatred and fear, was gone. When the light finally engulfed me, I found myself standing in a vast, open field. The ground was not dirt or grass, but a shimmering, golden substance that felt impossibly soft under my feet. The sky was a canopy of colors I can't describe with human words. It was a kaleidoscope of vibrant blues, shimmering golds, and deep purples that seemed to breathe with life. It was a sky that felt more alive than the skies of Earth, a sky that held all of existence within it. In the distance, I saw figures. They were bathed in a soft, gentle light, and they were all in motion. Some were standing, some were bowing, some were kneeling, some were in prostration as though in prayer. They moved with a grace and a rhythm that was breathtakingly beautiful. I didn't know them, but somehow, I knew they knew me. There was a sense of profound connection, a feeling of being part of a larger, sacred community. Then, a man approached me. He wasn't bathed in the same light, but in a gentle, warm glow that radiated from him. He wore a simple white robe. His beard was dark with strands of silver, and his eyes saw straight through me. They were not judgmental, but they held a wisdom that spanned all of time. He didn't need to speak to know my story. He simply looked at me, and I felt completely understood. He said, his voice a gentle but firm melody, "Daniel, you have wasted much of your life chasing shadows. You have confused fleeting pleasures with lasting joy. But Allah has shown you mercy. He has given you a glimpse of a different path." I didn't know the name Allah then, but it rang in my ears like truth itself, like a forgotten word from a forgotten language that I was finally remembering. He reached out and touched my chest. The feeling was not physical, but a jolt of pure energy that flooded my entire being. Instantly, visions flooded my mind, a complete, unedited playback of my life. This was not a highlight reel, but a raw, honest chronicle of every choice, every action, every word. I saw myself as a boy, stealing a few dollars from my mother's wallet to buy candy. I saw myself in high school, lying to a friend to avoid helping them. I saw nights in bars, getting into fights I started for no reason, and the look of pain in the eyes of people I hurt. This wasn't a lecture or a punishment. I felt the weight of every wrong had ever done, not as guilt someone forced on me, but as a deep, agonizing pain in my own soul. I was experiencing the pain I had caused others. I felt the sadness of my mother, the betrayal of my friends, the fear of the people I had been violent with. It was an overwhelming, terrifying experience, but it was also clarifying. For the first time in my life, I saw the true consequences of my actions. I saw myself not as an untouchable rebel, but as a small, misguided human being causing unnecessary pain. The man's voice, calm and steady, broke through the torrent of visions. "You were made for more than this. You were created with a purpose. But you are not ready to stay here. You must return, and you must warn others. You must tell them what you have seen." Before I could respond, to beg him to let me stay in this beautiful, peaceful place, the scene changed violently. The serene field dissolved, and I was suddenly standing on a shoreline. The air was thick with the smell of salt and fear. Waves crashed so high they swallowed buildings and skyscrapers. I recognized the coastline. It was Miami, Florida, but it was in a state of chaos. People were running, screaming, their terror palpable. The vision shifted again. I was in California, watching wildfires rage, the sky a blood-red inferno. I was in New York, watching skyscrapers shake and crumble like they were made of sand. Then, a dust storm, a wall of angry, red earth, swallowing entire towns in the Middle East. It was a rapid-fire sequence of global catastrophe, a terrifying glimpse of a world in self-destruct mode. Then, the scene shifted one last time, and it was the most chilling of all. I saw a room, a grand, wood-paneled room. Leaders were seated around a table. Men I recognized from TV: Joe Biden, Vladimir Putin, Benjamin Netanyahu, Kim Jong-un. They were arguing, their faces contorted with rage, their voices a cacophony of threats. Maps were scattered on the table, marked with red and blue lines. Putin slammed his fist on the table, shouting something I couldn't understand. The room went silent. Then, they all looked at a red button in the center of the table. A single, ominous button. The moment hung in the air, thick with dread. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. The man's voice returned, echoing from everywhere, a sound that shook my very soul. These are the fruits of mankind's pride. Tell them, the time is shorter than they think. The hour is coming, and they are not prepared. Suddenly, I was pulled backward, faster and faster, like a stone being shot from a slingshot. The visions faded into darkness again. I felt a jolt, a physical shock so powerful it felt like my bones were breaking. My lungs, which had been silent for what felt like an eternity, spasmed, and I gasped and opened my eyes. The world was back, the blinding white of the hospital ceiling, the frantic beeping of monitors. My chest hurt like it was on fire, and I felt the incredible pain of a fractured skull, broken ribs, and a punctured lung. Doctors were shouting, "We've got him back. He's back." The recovery was long. My body was a roadmap of damage, a testament to the brutal force of the accident. But the hardest part wasn't the physical pain. It was knowing I couldn't just go back to my old life. The Quranic verses, the visions, the man's words, they haunted me. They were a constant echo in my mind, a powerful memory that wouldn't fade. My parents and friends came to visit, relieved and confused. They saw the physical scars, but they couldn't see the deeper, spiritual wounds. I tried to explain what I saw, but the words felt hollow and inadequate. How do you tell someone you saw the end of the world in a vision? How do you explain the feeling of hearing a language you've never heard but somehow understood with your soul? They listened with concern, attributing it to brain trauma and hallucination. I knew the truth was bigger. A week after I was discharged, I was a different person. My tattoos, once a source of pride, now felt like a cage, a reminder of a life I no longer wanted to live. I was restless, haunted by the feeling that I had been given a second chance for a reason. I knew I had to find that voice again, that peace I had felt in the darkness. I did a search online for Quran recitation and Islam. The images of the beautiful calligraphy and the peaceful scenes of prayer felt strangely familiar. My heart pounded in my chest as I clicked on a video of Surah Al-Fatiha being recited. When the words began, Bismillah Rahmanir Rahim, I felt a jolt of recognition so powerful it brought tears to my eyes. It was the same voice, the same feeling I had experienced in the light. I knew then what I had to do. I drove to the Islamic Association of North Texas in Richardson, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. I was still wearing my street clothes, my tattoos on full display, feeling like a complete outsider. An older man with a kind, gentle face greeted me with a smile. I looked at him, tears welling up in my eyes, and I said, "I think I saw something. I think I need to know about Islam." I sat for hours as he patiently explained the basics Tawhid, the oneness of God, the prophethood of Muhammad, peace be upon him, the truth of the Quran. He spoke with a quiet wisdom, and every word felt like a missing piece of my soul was being put back together. When he recited Surah Al-Fatiha for me, chills ran down my spine. It was exactly what I had heard in that light. Right then, I knew, with a certainty that was absolute and profound, there was no doubt in my mind. 2 weeks later, I took my Shahada. I stood before the community, a group of people I had never met before, and declared my belief. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, Washington Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I felt a sense of belonging I had never known in my old life. I felt clean, reborn. My tattoos were still there, but they no longer define me. They were part of my old story, a story that had ended on a stretch of asphalt in Dallas. And now I'm here, telling you this because I was told to warn others. Life is short. You might think you have years, but it can be gone in an instant. My old life ended in a flash, and I was given a glimpse of a different reality. The warnings I saw of a world on the brink, of a humanity lost in pride, are not just for me. They are for all of us. If you're hearing this, maybe it's your sign to think about where you're headed. What would you do if you saw what I saw? Let me know in the comments. And please, subscribe to this channel not just for me, but so we can spread these messages further. You never know whose life it might save.